And here we go.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught! Jelani Woods! Touchdown! I-N-D-Y! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton!
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, good people, how are you doing today? Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, October 27. At the end of the month, man, and trick-or-treat time around the corner. Hope you're doing well. We've got a lot of treats for you today. Bob Kravitz will join us, of course, from bobkravitz.substack.com. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload. Talk some Big Ten football this weekend. And we will take you, if all things go well, to Mike Woodson's press conference, which will be happening during the show. So we're going to try to pull that off, as difficult as it might be. Hello to everybody hitting us up from wherever, all over. We appreciate you. Cody jumping on from Fort Wayne up in the fort, and says they've got Carroll High School against Warsaw. Then you've got Homestead and Fishers going at it, and that should be a good one. And well, I'll get through this real quick. Dwayne, how are you, sir? Good morning from the real Southern Indiana. Well, to me, that's Southwestern Indiana. To me, Southern Indiana is where I am from originally, down in Floyd County, Harrison, around like a bubble around it would be a big bubble though, I guess. But it would kind of go halfway between Louisville and Evansville, and then you bubble it over to about halfway between Louisville and Cincinnati. That's Southern Indiana to me. But hey, who cares? It's all in it. What's in a name? Forrest jumping on from South Georgia. Kent is up in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. John from Southern Brown County, right over in Nashville, Indiana. Phillips on Game 1 of the World Series tonight. You never know. You might see me coming in from the bullpen. Just kidding. Caleb's on. Appreciate you, sir. Fred. Yeah, Mike Woodson will hopefully have that live on here today. Check out this shirt. Is this cool or what? That's Hoosier Hank, by the way. You'll have to look closely. If you're catching us on YouTube, you can see that this beautiful, cool rendition I'm wearing from Hoosier Hank Pizza. What was there last night? Hoosier Hank's East. Used to be the old Avers pub here in Bloomington. Man, the food was spectacular. I had a sandwich called the Steak Bomb, and it was the bomb. Loved it. So if you get a chance, it's over in the mall area. I'm not going to lie to you. It's one of those areas that you got to kind of figure out how to get to right off the right there. I think if you're listening to the Bloomington area, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a weird, they've got a ton of stuff there. The Dick's, the Kroger, just a big long stretch, but it's not easy to navigate. But easy to get here to Hoosier Hanks. Make sure you stop out, say hi to Benny and Benny and the Jets. Well, Benny, the GM out there, doing a fantastic job. Hello to The Truth, Robert Carter, jumping on. We've got to get him off that Facebook and switched over to YouTube. Tony, down in Owensboro, barbecue capital. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen right there, Ed. Thank you, sir. And while we have your ear, if you are not able to catch us on one of the great stations like 97.7 ESPN The Ref in Evansville or WJOB 1230 AM 104.7 FM, the voice of the region, or 1380 The Fan in Fort Wayne, Fort Wayne's only sports station, by the way. And as a note there, make sure when you're if you're listening in Fort Wayne, we'll just keep it tuned on 1380 all the time. You've got Caleb and Kenny each morning, and then immediately after Indiana Sports Beat Radio, you've got Brett Rump Sports. So hang in there for that. And otherwise, if you are following us on the YouTube, as the kids call it, make sure you please hit the subscribe button and like notifications, toggle notifications, like button, all that stuff. You know how everybody says it, but it's true. It's very important to us and helping grow the show, which is what we want to do. If you live in an area where there's a radio station, you think, man, this would be great to have Indiana Sports Beat on that station. Well, let me know, and then let them know. Just give them a call in. We'd thank you very much. Derek is also on from Owensboro. Gritty has arrived. And I think that Gritty made an appearance on – John's not here today. John, the producer, RC is filling in for him again. But I wish he was, because I think Gritty made an appearance on – John does a little side podcast. Oh, my gosh. Gritty, you'll have to tell me what the name of it is again. I forgot. But Mitchell Page and Dustin Schutte, they all get together and talk about any and everything, which it would be great to have a segment like that on here. I'm not sure people would it would probably, well, it is fun when we have Dustin on. That's why we kind of get into those corners. That's where I need somebody like that to get me out of the lane I stay in. Mike Woodson presser today, as I mentioned. Hopefully we're going to have that live. Well, when was it live? Depends on when you're listening to us. But here on the show today at the very last bit, the last segment of the show. So that means you got to stick around. High school football playoffs tonight. As mentioned earlier, Cody mentioned that. Plenty of good games. Get out and throw them out here. If you're going to a game or you know of a game, throw it out on the comments. I'll give it a shout out, man. I'm all about getting people out to high school football games. I love it. I love it. Now, if you're in the central Indiana area, which is part of the Bloomington is part of that area, I think you're depending on, of course, I have not looked at the forecast. I did look outside, or I didn't even have to look. I could hear rain showers falling. But I think that's going to not be the case by tonight. It looks like you're going to have, well, at least some clear skies, high of 79 today here. But the rain coming back around 9. So the fields are going to be wet here. Gigantic game in Bloomington. Bloomington North taking on Bloomington South. I need to get all those games pulled up. My Highlanders are playing, I believe, Columbus North, and that would probably be down at Floyd Central. I'm not sure. I have to check that out. Out of Touch. Yes, thank you very much. That is the podcast of our handy dandy John, the producer, along with Mitchell Page and Dustin Schutte. Great name for that. I'm like, why don't you think of names like that for us? I'm kidding. No, great name for that. And it's kind of, that's something great to tune into if you're got to go out into the garage and do some work, or you're going to have some little bit of time on your hands. It's just harmless humor, I guess is what I would call it. Ed asking, will Penn State cover the 32-point spread this weekend? Indiana, for the third time this season, is a 30-point or more underdog. There's not a lot to say about that. Tony asking if he could get a couple free passes to the golf course. Well, I tell you what, if you come to the golf club at Eagle Point to play and tell them that you heard it on the show and tell me that you're coming, I will, I'll definitely make sure you get taken care of in some form or fashion, whether it's a hat or we'll get you taken care of some way. But there are Ryan K from up north and his wife, they come down and play, and that's like 3-4 hours away. I know that they have played her several times. I've had the pleasure of playing with them a few times. Robert, yeah. Let's see. Brownsburg. Well, that's not it. Jumped on me. Brownsburg at Ben Davis. Woohoo! Yeah, that sounds like a fist fight, and I don't mean that the teams are going to get into a fight. I mean that should be a hell of a game. But you know what? You're getting into the point where a lot of the games are going to be good. Although this is the first week of. This is the second week of 4A and below, but this is the first week for the big boys. Gritty pointing out Evansville Memorial boys soccer competing for a state championship tomorrow. So all of our peeps down on the river in Evansville, our river rats, you're going to have to come together and support Memorial, even though if you're from Wrights or wherever you might be from. Plenty more to get to. Man, it has already been a fun open. I love when the open goes that fast, and I just get to talk to you guys. Tony says, IU in the mix for 2025 top recruit who could reclassify. Yes, we'll talk about that. Robert the True says, let me tell everybody about Evansville Rise. They have a 6'6", 6'8" dude that's just a freshman. Yeah. Shoot me his name. Well, yeah. Name and school. Forrest says the JTP's podcast is like a Seinfeld episode. It's a show about nothing. That's great. And those are the funniest ones because it usually affects it's something that everybody can relate to. Fisher's running back. Kobe Martin commits to Indiana. Robert says they've got 3 of those 6A guys. Well, let's hear about them. 5 Lefts is on as well. Hey, we've got a lot more coming back right after this with the man, Bob Kravitz. Make sure you stick around.
Back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I wonder if that guy was voice texting. I wonder if he meant Evansville Wrights instead of Rise.
Oh, yes. Probably. Great pickup. Of course, you're from Evansville.
Yeah, I grew up in Evansville.
Yeah, great pickup. And thanks, Robert. Yes, shoot me those names, man. I'd like to know who it is you be talking about. I always feel like I'm crooked as I look into the monitor. Am I crooked? Which would mean either my seat is crooked or the camera is. But It could possibly be this stupid office chair. This thing is gone after today. The arm on the right side, there's a bolt in the front and then a bolt in the back. And the bolt where it's bolted in the front, it's bolted to a piece of metal that goes inside the chair. Well, that broke off. And so now it's nothing supporting the armrest. And so I can make it move like this, and it doesn't. But worst of all is that stupid piece of metal. Every time I try to push, keeps pinching me. Man, we got first world problems, but I've got a new one.
Are you
got
getting
a new chair coming, baby?
One of those gamer chairs?
No, it's more like a little, kind of more like a stool, which I prefer. Ross is back.
Well, it's time for us to go live here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Speed Radio here on this Friday. It is a football Friday for a number of reasons. High school football, no matter where you are, actually. Georgia, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Florida. It's time. Some good games tonight. I need to get pulled up. Hoping Bob Kravitz is going to be joining us here in a little bit. He maybe slept in with the rain. You know, I would do that. I just would stay in bed all day if I could, and just enjoy listening to that. But we've got plenty to get to, as I said, the high school football playoffs. Bob Earsay, I'm looking forward to talking to Bob. He had his last couple of pieces out on bobkravitz.substack.com, musings of an old sports writer. Earlier in the week, he had one about Bob Earsay, about Jim Earsay, that he my phone was on airplane mode. Kind of broke the inside code of the NFL. Told him that they screwed up and on the calls at the end of the game, which no crap. Everybody knew that. But in the NFL, that information is not really. I think it's the NBA. They do a breakdown, and it's public. So if I commented on it at the bottom of that piece he wrote, that I'm not disagreeing with that he probably shouldn't be fined, because if it's against rules, it's against rules. But it's BS that the NFL bills itself as the premier sports league in the world, and yet I got all this cloak and dagger business. No, when they screw up, that should be public, number one. Number two, what the hell happens about it? Why are they special treatment not to not get called out if they do their jobs wrong, especially when today, and I'm not, it doesn't really matter if you're a bettor or not. And because people who don't bet don't care about betting, but gigantic part of sports today, period, as I think everybody knows. And it's just, those calls matter. It mattered for the Colts. Matters for a lot. There's just a lot on the line. So those people have to be held accountable publicly, in my opinion. And that's what I responded to, had a lot of response back on it. And then also, he wrote a great piece on the Pacers and their opening win that we talked about with Chris Denari yesterday. That it was actually, well, it was about a lot of different. TJ McConnell was kind of a center point of it, of how he has gone from being one of the key pieces of that team to somebody who's probably going to be a bit player, but how he acknowledged that he knows that after a conversation with the coach and was just nothing but professional about it. Well, that's why the Pacers could do something a little surprising this year. They're that talented where TJ McConnell, who was a major part, is pushed down the line. That's not great news for TJ McConnell, but it is for fans of the Indiana Pacers and the Indiana Pacers. Las Vegas Larry on. Great to have you, sir. Speaking of gambling, the gambling capital of the world, the original Sin City, beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. So that's my take on that. But it was good, some good pieces by Bob. If you're not a subscriber of his, go. You're missing great content. He puts out a ton of it, and it covers everybody, everything, whether you're wanting Hoosiers content, Colts, Pacers. And once the basketball season kicks off, you'll be a lot more in tune to what is going on there as well, of course. What's the latest on Derek Queen? I don't want to jump around here too much, but the fall early signing period approaches. Indiana men's basketball is awaiting that final decision. That's among their three priority guys. Obviously, McNeely and Boogie Fland. Those decisions have been made. Now awaiting that of Derek Queen. On Wednesday, there was a erroneous post made by, what's his name? The East Coast guy. He really is an East Coaster. Daggone it. His name slips my mind at the moment. But anyway, he put out a report that that a decision was coming on Friday, and he had to retract that. I do expect a decision to come by next Friday because we're getting a little bit closer. Well, we're getting closer to the end of the early signing period, and I think that will happen then. Now, does this go Maryland's way, Houston's way, or Indiana's way? I think Houston is out of it at this point. He's not going to say that. This is just my opinion. Derek asking, is there a chance Queen waits until spring signing period? I heard that he could, he says. Well, and not being a smartass, but yeah, he could. I don't think that he does. I think he wants to get this done and out of the way, focus on his season. I'm sure his coaches would like to see that, because otherwise now you've got recruiting stuff going on when it's able to be done throughout the season. And Kevin Boyle, the head coach at Montverde, I'm sure would probably rather that was, I mean, he's not going to say that, but he would rather that he was able to focus on their season so they go out and win them another championship. But the return, while that report turned some heads, given the fact that it wasn't widely reported, and there was also a complete omission of Houston, also considered one of the finalists in the Queen sweepstakes. Queen himself later took to Twitter to refute the claim, affirming he is still in decision mode. I make mistakes for sure. I don't know that I've ever put something like that out without knowing it was a fact. But boy, when you get called out by your subject matter, that's not good. So, but take that for what it's worth. There was a post by none other than Victor Oladipo. see the former jersey of his hanging right there, the Indiana Pacer jersey, and hanging here in the Indiana Sports or the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. He put out a tweet saying there was nothing like playing in Assembly Hall. So Victor helping out. Liam McNeely with a tweet that says, "Be next," at Derek Queen. He reposted an Adam Howard. Trent Sisley, another Indiana target that Indiana's working on. They continued. He's had a number of visits this year or this fall at Purdue, Iowa, Michigan State. He has been to, of course, Indiana, Notre Dame. So he's a wanted man, without question. He's one of the highest priorities in the class of 2025 at this moment. Now, that will change. Not that he will not be a priority. He won't be the only one because Indiana's going to have room. They still have a blank scholarship that they can use. But he's a top 50 in-state forward. Important to me, in my opinion, that Indiana lands him for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, because he's a damn good player. He's a great kid, comes from a great family. He's somebody you want on your team. He's 6'7", and I was watching some video recently, and he was doing his work on the inside. And I mean, just tearing them up. Always around the ball. Offensive rebounds galore. Scoring under the basket. Now, that's not what he'll be asked to do at Indiana, but I also saw him out on the perimeter knocking down some moon balls. He's got a nice high arcing shot that looks really, really good. And that's what Indiana has to get back to. Having guys like that on the team that can shoot at the same time. I hate being one of those back in my day. Well, that's one of the things I have to reference is around the time that I was in college, Indiana's roster was that of the early 90s. Pat Graham, Greg Graham, Todd Leary, Calbert Chaney, Damon Bailey, on these same teams together, Eric Anderson. Every damn one of them could shoot from three. And they all did. That is what you have to have. You have to have a team that is dangerous at every position. You have to have a team that all five are respected by the defense. And all five can score. That's exactly why they would be out there. Indiana also offer a scholarship to 2025. He's, I guess you call him a wing two. He's like a 2-3. Jason Sannon. He's a high 4-star right there at the 5-star status. This offer came on Thursday afternoon. He's from Vermont Academy up in Saxton's River, Vermont. And thinking about all the folks up in Maine right now, I know that they had I think it's Sannon, Andy, but or is that a different player? But yeah, and I don't know how you pronounce his first name, to be honest with you. Maybe Hosan. But he's a 6'5", 2025 kid. Lanky, athletic forward with an explosive above-the-rim game that, again, a multi-level scorer. Having guards, that's exactly what I was talking about with Trent Sisley. He's going to be he's a 3 that could probably play the 2, truth be told. But at 6'7", he's probably going to be a 3. But this is a guy that can take you out on the perimeter, and you better be on him, because not only does he have a good shot, like I said, it's a nice high arcing shot, not going to get his shot blocked very often. And he can play inside as well. So recruiting still, it's about to come to an end here at November 5th. What do we got? 2.5 weeks left, I'd say. And Andy thinks he's going to move to the 24 class, which would benefit Indiana because they just so happen to have an opening. Wow. There's a trivia question. Robert Troller asking, did Lou Watson replace Branch McCracken? I don't remember if there was anybody between them or not. I think that there was. I don't remember when Branch McCracken's last year was, but I know that Lou Watson was like, he ended, his era ended when Bob Knight came in. So it would have started in the 60s at some point. I don't have the media book pulled up in front of me, but my answer to that would be no, but it's an odd question. But hey, we take any and all right here. But Indiana recruiting is still at it, and that's the thing when you miss out. That's the one thing I've talked about. The Hoosiers need to alter their recruiting. Well, there you go. He did succeed him. Wow. I didn't know that was the only coach in between. So there was just one coach between Branch McCracken and Bob Knight. Besides, there was a guy that was like an interim coach between Knight and Watson, I think. He was just interim, to my knowledge. And just a little piece of trivia for you. What's Jerry Tarkanian was recommended to, I believe it may have been John Wood that said, hey, the Indiana job's open and you need to look at that. Man, there's so many things like that go back in history. Indiana back in the day received a letter from an assistant coach at another school asking for an opportunity, looking for an opportunity to coach, and was told that they're all fine. Everything's great here. Thanks, but no thanks. A young assistant coach by the name of Newt Rockney. So if you want to talk about some bad hires and non-hires at Indiana over the years, there's the big one right there. What happens? What's Indiana football like today if they don't make that mistake way back when? It's a good question. But Indiana football was solid in the Big Ten up until the 70s. And then there was a kind of a racial boycott. And then Bob Knight came in, and Indiana basketball took off like a rocket. And I think football was kind of forgotten. And it was not the juggernaut of sports that it is today. And then by the time it was going in that direction, Bill Mallory did a great job. It was fun to be in school then. 6 bowl games in 8 years. In competitive, beat Ohio State 2 years in a row, beat Michigan, was there for that. Had a guy that should have won a Heisman Trophy and Anthony Thompson. So it was possible then. But, hey, we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Check them out. Don't forget, brought to you by our good friends from Goteen and Hank's Pizza. Hoosier Hank's Pizza, located in the old Aver Pub over by the mall here in Bloomington. Lots more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat. We'll back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Well, this is I was looking for a funny phrase. This is a bad development. Man! I think Bob forgot us.
Oh, man. He's in the email.
Zach Osterman will be along in the next hour, as is Casey Bartley. I might want to see if he wants to just co-host. Da, 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 da. Hank, see that song's gonna be in my head all day. Let's talk about your daddy. Tell me how your mama loved that man. But just break out a bottle, hoss. I'll tell you about the drifting cowboy band. Do you think he wrote them about your mama? Or about the man who done her wrong? You know that. It's taking me too long for this. All right, see. Damn. Well, I didn't get a response from him yesterday. All right, people, you're stuck with me for the moment. Sorry about your luck. Oh, forgot about the Bill Rods and the Buccaneers. The bounce back Bills. The bounce back Bills beat the blundering Buccaneers. Say that 3 times fast.
Good job. We're going to go live here in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. It's October 27th. Couldn't be happier to be here with you. We appreciate you so much. No reason for us to be here without you. Last night, the bounce back Bills beat the blundering Buccaneers. Say that 3 times fast. 24-18. And I call them the bounce back Bills, coming off of a loss to the lowly Patriots. You want to talk about some cheating, but there's that. And speaking of which, what's going on with nothing new that I'm aware of besides the NCAA enforcement staff has been at Michigan this week to look into the sign stealing probe. ESPN reported the arrival of NCAA enforcement just a week after the investigation formally launched is an indication of the priority of the case has taken, according to ESPN sources, as it should. As it should. This is not a situation where you let them go until next year to punish them because they're benefiting right now from things that they've done. Now, they have not played either Ohio State or Penn State. And so, therefore, they've played no one. Yet, I keep hearing people just talk about how great this team is. And I'm like, okay, yeah, they look really good against the teams they played. Why does everyone just think they're that great? They have not been tested by a West Coast type offense. They have not been tested by a team that can throw the ball all over the place. They have not been tested by a team or teams that have Heisman candidate quality quarterbacks. And now all of a sudden, J.J. McCarthy is the supposed leader in the Heisman race, which I think is crap. Yes, he's doing well against no one. So, why? I that's the one thing about national media, in my opinion. They get all jacked up on, it's like they get all jacked up on candy every time something like this happens. It's like they just grab handfuls of Halloween candies and just get all that sugar in them, and they're they're 7-0 and they just beat everybody, and but they haven't beaten anyone that they beat everyone they played, but they played no one. I am sticking with my man Penix, Michael Penix Jr. Washington has played and will play more. They have at least 3 more games against ranked teams. And we're not talking just ranked teams, people. We're talking about Utah, who has one of the best coaches in the game right now, Kyle Whittingham. We're talking about Oregon State, I believe. Dangerous team. Both ranked. Then we're talking about the Pac-12 championship, which would likely be a rematch with an Oregon team that could have easily won the original matchup in Washington. That's what scares me a little bit about Washington is Oregon should have won that game. Dan Lanning made just some bad decisions that I think cost him his team. And so we'll see, but we'll get to follow that. But the Big Ten confirmed last week that the NCAA was investigating allegations of sign stealing by the University of Michigan football program. Since then, they've suspended Connor Stallions, an analyst who was making $55,000 a year and spending thousands of dollars on tickets, travel, et cetera, to go to games. Teams used to be able to send people out to watch teams like from the stands and stuff. I remember when I was a young lad coaching high school football, you'd get sent out, and it was usually the week before the team that you were playing next. They'd send a couple guys to go scout the team, watch them play, maybe take a few notes, but that was it. And then the teams would swap films of games, and that was it. Well, that was outlawed in college back in 1994, mainly because of cost to those who could not do it, which is a good thing. But never was it they were going there and filming the other team. Never was it going there and filming the sideline and the coaches and the signals and all of that, which is exactly what Michigan has been doing. And I'm going to tell you, there have been multiple coaches that have spoken out and have basically said, this is BS. It's, they're getting called out. And the Big Ten, I'd like to see the Big Ten do something. Screw the NCAA. Are you going to hold your breath waiting for the NCAA to do something? Please. ESPN had previously reported that Stallions purchased tickets at games at 12 of 13 possible Big Ten schools. You want to guess who that 13th school was? It didn't list them, but if it turns out to be Indiana, that's going to be a little embarrassing, probably. Yeah, it will be embarrassing. That will add a little more salt into the wounds of Indiana football this year. But and it was not only that. The 21 and 22 SEC title games he attended, and games in 4 campus stadiums tied to the college football playoff contenders last season. Georgia, I think Alabama. Overall, Stallions left a paper trail of at least 35 games at 17 stadiums around the country. Wow. That was a covert operation. If Michigan played against Washington right now, Cody thinks that he's pretty sure that Washington would win. Yeah, it's easy to say that, but I want to see it. I want to see that defense hold Washington or Oregon to 6 points. That's what I want to see. Indiana scored 7, should have scored 14. They had a touchdown called back because of a heel out of bounds. So if Indiana can do that, what the hell do you think Michael Penix and Rome Meduze and Bo Nix at Oregon, they have not faced elite talent. Now they will against Ohio State. And that's the thing. That's an all or nothing game for Michigan. Although they're getting so much bubblegum love that even if they were to lose that game, beat Penn State, and having run the if they had beat Penn State already, and Ohio State is their last game before the Big Ten championship, but Michigan could. I just don't see a path for Michigan to get in if they lose to Ohio State. But they've gotten so much BS bubblegum love as being this great team. People are so stuck on them. It's still a possibility. I think that, well, there's no doubt the Pac-12 conference is just better this year. Hell, they've got 5 teams that are ranked, I believe, or were. I mean, Washington State was rolling. They've kind of fallen a little bit. But Oregon State, Oregon, Utah, Washington, there's 4 solid teams right there. If a conference has a shot at getting 2 in this year, I think it's the Pac-12, and they've had trouble ever getting a team in. The irony of it all. By the way, it's a 3-hour, 20-minute drive from up north for Ryan to the golf club at Eagle Point, as we talked about earlier. Bobby says, who cares about the Michigan charges? No one cheats more than the SEC and what has happened to them. Well, how are they cheating now? Yes, I believe to the past, I believe that they were handing out NIL before NIL was legal, but it's not just the SEC. Look what Kansas got away with just 2 weeks ago, a week ago, whenever. Yeah. The NCAA is just in over their head. The problem is college sports has continued to evolve. As guess what? Life does. We evolved. I mean, our environment, our culture slowly evolves to different ways. Look at life in the 60s to the 70s to the 80s and 90s, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the same. There's just some evolution that continues to happen. The NCAA is stuck in being the NCAA. They didn't evolve. Not only that, they end up always being behind the 8 ball and looking like, well, I've got to say, I'm tired. Earlier I said I had a Taylor Swift lash. Man, I've got Travis Kelce lash now. He does more commercials than Peyton Manning. He gets more airtime than a CNN or Fox News anchor. He's on every time you turn something on, he's in a commercial. I'm like, who the hell is he not repping for? But he does have one of my favorite lines in a commercial. I think it was, what do you call a guy in face paint who can't get tickets? A clown. That's a great line, but it reminds me of the NCAA. It's just been a clown show. Yes, Robert, I just mentioned them. He says they just don't like Jim Harbaugh. Well, Harbaugh is a polarizing figure and has pushed the boundaries, which there's nothing wrong with that. That reminds me of NASCAR. Those guys, and another great line from Darrell Waltrip. He was talking about, his era coming through. It was different. NASCAR is a different sport than it was then. The cars are all the same now. But back then, there's a lot of things you could do. But they were on an episode of something I was watching. It was talking about cheating back then. He goes, well, we weren't cheaters. We were innovators. We were rule innovators, which I love that. They had to make a rule about stuff that they would do because every time they'd find a way to do something. And great line. We weren't cheaters. We were rule innovators. But that's not this. This Michigan thing and the Kansas thing, that was cheating. But the difference is, and Kansas should have been punished. Bill Self should have been punished. Not Kansas, Bill Self. Bill Self is the one that got away with it. I don't care about Kansas. Kansas itself didn't do it. It was Bill Self. But anyway, the difference is now you've got everybody getting paid. So they've kind of just said, yeah, screw that. We're not going to mess with that stuff. This is not going to be a rule that gets changed next year. And they're not going to say, okay, well, you can go and sit in the other opposing team stands and film their huddles and everything else. It's just not going to happen. But we'll see how that turns out, as it cannot be good for Michigan. I mean, Jim Harbaugh was suspended for the first 3 games of this year, and now he's got NCAA investigators on campus. They have got this information came from a third-party private investigative source. The one thing I want to know is who engaged this private investigator. That has not come out. A PI firm just started doing this on their own? No. And I have not seen that question asked by anyone. But oh well. Hey, we got a lot more coming up in the second hour of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload. We're going to talk Big Ten football with him. We'll talk IU basketball with an exhibition game on Sunday. We'll talk about that, what you can look for, that and much more from the golf club at Eagle Point Studios. Back after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
RC, RC.
Me and my RC.
When you send the program to Fort Wayne, can you send either hour?
Oh, yeah, I could.
Yeah. You know, you have to have the opening still for because Bob is probably going to come on in this hour. I'll see. I'm waiting to confirm that, but this is the only hour we're going to have guests.
So you want me to do the opening segment and then the 2 guest segments today when I send it to Fort Wayne?
All right. Bob's coming on at 9:50. So, yes, if you could use the opening segment and then maybe
the last 2.
And then not the last. Well, see, that sucks because Bob's coming on at 9:50. That doesn't go to the close. Damn. No. Well, if Casey Bartley comes on at say at 10:10, we'll just do the last 2.
Okay.
The very first and the last 2.
Yep, I can do that.
And thank you.
No problem at all.
That would work out much better. 9:50, our boy Bob. Oh boy, now I really get to bust his ass.
So when
damn it.
You said Ryan,
how much time do I have?
We're about to go back on. Sorry, but if you sorry. But okay. We'll go live here in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, TGIF. I hope you've had a great week, and we'd like to try to get you ready for the weekend. What you got going? Anybody going to high school football? What teams you going to see? Weekend sports plans? Anybody going to any of the college games? I've got to get that schedule pulled up, who all is going where. I know that Indiana is on the road at Happy Valley to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions, as Zach Osterman from the Indy Star about to join us here. Indiana, like I said, they're on the road this weekend on the football side of things. And then basketball, they're in action on Sunday with their exhibition opener. Zach, how are you doing, brother?
Hey, how we doing?
Good. Just sitting here musing about the weekend schedule that is packed and heavy. For on the football side, Indiana, of course, on the road to traveling to Happy Valley to take on what's probably going to be a pissed off Penn State team coming off of a huge loss for them. And then on the basketball court, Simon Scott Assembly Hall on Sunday, the first look at Indiana's new basketball faces as they'll take on UIndy. So plenty going on this weekend, and the World Series on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, this is always kind of one of those moments when it feels like the calendar really collides, particularly around here. You've obviously, you talk about football, you talk about basketball. You've also got, non-revenue sports like soccer and volleyball. Their season's really coming to a head this time of year. And, as you said, you're gearing up for men's and women's basketball both. And it always feels ever so slightly chaotic, especially for people in our business.
Yeah, it goes, I tell people, it's not bad. It goes from 6 to 7 days about this point. Because fortunately for Indiana, the soccer program is usually making a deep run more often than not to the Final Four. And not to make that a point, but the College Cup this year is in Louisville. And of all years for Indiana to make a College Cup, if it was this one, I don't think they understand how many fans a team could probably pull in for a College Cup final, because it's usually in a faraway place, like Cary, North Carolina, and teams coming across the country and whatnot. But man, I know Indiana fans, that Indiana Army, they would pack that Lynn Family Stadium down there, the beautiful soccer stadium right off of the interstate in downtown Louisville. But having it there so close, man, it would be nice to see the Hoosiers make it.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm trying to think. I feel like they've played it in Columbus a handful of times. I think they try to keep that event in warmer climates when they can. Obviously, the last time Indiana played in it was in Cary, North Carolina. The last time Indiana won it was down in Hoover, Alabama. They take it out west sometimes. There's fans of a certain age have stories about road tripping all the way out to Santa Clara or Palo Alto or wherever it was. But yeah, that one would be a little different for Indiana. Again, it doesn't usually come so close to home. Like I said, I think they try to keep it in places where they, by early December when it's played, the weather will at least be a little bit more temperate. But if it were in Louisville, or if it will be in Louisville, as you said, if it were Indiana in Louisville, is what I was trying to say. Yeah, you would see a pronounced home field advantage if you could get to a place where obviously students could make the drive in a day, fans could make the drive in a day. Of course, you'd have a number of people who are IU fans already just living within 20-30 minutes anyway. It's unless you got like Louisville in it, or maybe I guess Kentucky, I don't think you would see anywhere near the fan turnout for anybody else the way you would for IU.
Oh man, and can you imagine if it did contain two of those teams, an Indiana and a Kentucky or Louisville? It would rival a basketball game, and maybe exceed, because soccer fans they're just a little different, Zach. You being one of them, not that I'm saying you're different, but soccer fans are just a little different. They love their team and their sport.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it'd be bigger than a basketball game or not, but I think at very least you would see probably that stadium, pretty close to full. I don't know what its total capacity is, but I'd be surprised if you didn't see it.
It would be sold out.
Yeah, at least close to full up.
The Indiana football team traveling this weekend to Happy Valley, which normally you try to look at things and say, all right, well, they should be able to can do this or they can do that. In this situation, I don't see a point in really doing that. This is more about Indiana's offense still trying to get its sea legs. They have made the commitment now, it seems, to Brendan Sorsby about getting him to a better place for the games that are coming after that on this schedule, which are four, which Indiana still has a sliver of hope for bowl eligibility, but that would mean they would have to win out in the rest of those four Big Ten games.
Yeah, listen, I think it's pretty clear where the season is, and last week felt like the sort of game that if Indiana was going to sort of, I guess, summon something, find some sort of, kind of, I don't know, last stand, some Alamo to dig into or whatever. It felt like it would have maybe shown through last weekend. Bowl eligibility is not off the table. Even if they lose this weekend, they'll just be 2-6. In theory, they could win their last four and go. But I think everybody understands, it's not hard to look at just the state of play and kind of understand where the season is trending. And I think, if I'd be curious to ask Tom Allen if he had his time again, if he'd handled the quarterback situation the same. And I think a coach is always going to be guarded about those things because he wants to protect his players and he doesn't want to maybe put himself in a position where he's, being critical of one or the other or anything like that. I thought Brendan Sorsby had some good moments last weekend, just like Taven Jackson had some good moments against Louisville. My issue is more just sort of that you knew you were going to have a young quarterback, whoever it was. You knew they were going to have some young quarterback moments, whoever it was. And you just sort of feel like you needed to pick one and stick with him and let him make some mistakes, let him have some a couple bad games. It feels like you're kind of in a position, for lack of maybe a more penetrative or insightful way to say it. It feels like a football team in week 8 and a quarterback in week 3 or week 4, and that's the quarterback's fault. And I understand. I mean, listen, I understood, and insofar as it was ever my job, I defended the idea of the way Allen handled those first 2 games. I think the issue is more about kind of opening it up after that than it is. You had this long competition. You got Taven Jackson to kind of separate himself, and then you opened it up again after, kind of even before the coordinator changed, but around that Maryland game, and then you change coordinators. And I understand also wanting to give an offensive coordinator the leeway to make some of his own decisions and put his own stamp on things. And I'm not really picking a side. Well, I'm not picking a side at quarterback at this point. I'm just saying it just sort of felt like Indiana prevaricated around that for too long. And it's not necessarily the reason for all their struggles. There are, a fistful of reasons this team is where it is at this moment in time. But it does feel like one of them, frankly, is that Indiana really needed to be in a place where it could give itself a quarterback to stand behind, and let that, as I said, let that quarterback make some mistakes, let that quarterback grow through it a little bit. And they didn't do that. And, I think one of the many problems you're now solving is you're deep into the season. And at a point, coaches are fond of saying things like, nobody's young anymore, not this deep into the season or whatever. That's just kind of like a common sort of, coachism, if you will, in football. The problem is it's not week 8 for Brendan Sorsby. And if for some reason and of course, as you said, they seem pretty intent on sticking with Sorsby. If for some reason it flipped back to Taven Jackson, it wouldn't be week 8 for Taven Jackson, because neither of them have gotten enough reps in game situations to really be able to look at them and say, okay, now we need to see the kind of progress that you want them to have made by this point in the year. And so I'm not, like I said, I don't want to hammer quarterback like it is the only thing that has caused sort of the only problem Indiana has, but it is one of them. And it is one where I do wonder if Tom Allen could kind of do it again, if he would do it any differently.
Well, I've not only do I agree with you, that is something I've said for many weeks now, that they should have had a guy week 1. And the fact that they were waffling, continued to waffle, shows to me that there was the decision-making was not good. The way they handled it was not good, because I use those very same analogies as well, that they're not getting the reps. You have to get the reps to be ready. You can't start the season 2/3 of the way in, basically, and that's not quite exactly like that. But you have not given your quarterback a chance. But I think that unfortunately falls on Tom Allen, because mainly his offensive acumen just doesn't seem to be good enough. He's a defensive-minded coach, a hell of a defensive coordinator. And then when you have an offensive coordinator that is somebody you end up firing, also not good. And I said when Rod Carey, when he was getting his opportunity to name the starting quarterback, I said, hey, he deserves the right. And I had written at the beginning of the year that Sorsby should be the starter. Didn't happen, and I was, quote, proven wrong, but I didn't think that I was wrong then. And I said, now if you have Rod Carey, they'll go through this process, and he decides that it's Brendan Sorsby. That solidifies, again, bad decision making. And I think it goes more into why can't you make a decision? And that's problematic because that goes to other things. What other issues or decisions are affecting the team and their performance on game day, that how they're operating? And that's as much as anybody hates to say anything negative about Tom Allen, he's such a great guy, but that's, to me, that's a having Rod Carey say, no, you guys made the wrong decision, and now we got to go this way. It's just more of an indictment on that inability on the offensive side. And I think it further puts more weight on the back that Tom Allen is currently carrying.
Yeah, I mean, again, I wouldn't, it's really easy to, in seasons like this where things are going wrong, to sort of try and take things and make them mean more than they do. And I think there are some people that sort of see the quarterback position as maybe like emblematic of mismanagement. I think, sometimes it can just be what it is. Indiana just approached it a certain way. That probably wasn't the right way to do it. With the benefit of hindsight, again, I understood why they handled the first two games the way they did, as an example. With the benefit of hindsight, I think we can say Indiana probably would have been a little better off. I mean, like, even if you think about who Indiana's playing this weekend, Drew Aller, I mean, he attempted 60 passes last season, so it was a little bit more, he has more meaningful reps than what Sorsby or Jackson had coming into this season, but he was the starter. He was a sophomore, so in years in college, he was, at the same place in terms of his sort of, not I want to say his development, but his experience at this level as both Jackson and Sorsby. He was a starter from day one. That wasn't a surprise. He was a highly rated recruit, and everyone could kind of see he was, kind of the coming force at that position for Penn State. He's attempted 223 passes this season. And just to use Sorsby as the example in this case, not sort of shoving Taven Jackson completely to one side, but because Sorsby is expected to be the starter for Indiana this weekend, Sorsby's attempted 88. And these are two guys that ultimately have, Penn State's played 7 games. Indiana's played 7 games. Aller has, almost 3 times as many snaps, more than 2.5 times as many snaps as Brendan Sorsby. And that is in no small part because Penn State just from the beginning said he's a starter. And listen, Aller hasn't torn the world up. I mean, he's completing 61% of his passes. He hasn't broken 200 yards passing in a game since September 16th. Obviously, there are some criticisms of Penn State's offense in some other areas, its lack of explosiveness and its lack of sort of explosive playmakers. But the point is, you let Drew Aller make some mistakes. You let him grow through some of it. And I'm once again not picking Sorsby or Jackson. I'm just saying whoever Indiana went with, really just needed, I think, more time. And we're spending a lot of time talking about quarterback. We could find other things that this team has struggled with. Like there's no
absolutely.
doubt about that.
Special teams have been
I don't think it is unfair. And I wrote this after Saturday's game, so I'll stand by it. I don't think it's unfair to sort of look at the way Indiana's staff has handled quarterback and the quarterback position and sort of say, well, if one of the things that you've got to preach here is consistency and persistence and, just unrelenting focus. Sometimes you got to sort of, practice what you're preaching a little bit. And when you're struggling with, one of the most fundamental questions in football for a coach, which is who's your starting quarterback, it's not like your players are going to see that and think that it's a free pass. But the point is, often players will do as you do, not just as you say. And I think Indiana's kind of, it's hard to ask that when you can't sort of show it yourself. But I don't want to make this out to be like, some scandal either. I just think they handled it. I think they took a certain approach to it. I think it made sense up to a certain point. And the other part of this too is it's an incredibly dramatic change to switch offensive coordinators or even just offensive play callers. Even if Walt Bell had stuck around, but somebody else started calling plays, like that is a really dramatic, sort of course correction.
Mid-season change.
Mid-season. And obviously then you got to get into this question of, well, if you need that course correction, what does that say? And yada, yada, yada. Leave that to one side. Even with that, I just don't think Indiana's really put either of its quarterbacks in a position to really succeed this year. And I think that when you talk about an offense that just keeps stalling and stalling, hasn't scored more than 2 touchdowns in a game yet this season, I don't think, unless I'm forgetting a game. I mean, certainly not in regulation time, but I don't think they even did it. Did they do it? I guess they had to have done it against Akron. But in 4 quarters of normal football, has not scored more than 2 touchdowns in a game all season. Your lack of consistency and your lack of just sort of, precision and, sort of, I guess, what is the word I'm looking for? Not confidence, but just sort of, the inability to just kind of have this, this sort of, I guess confidence would be one way to say it. Just have this sort of confidence in this is the direction we're going. We're going to stand behind it. We're going to, march steadily through that, even through setbacks, whatever may come. It's funny because in the last 2-3 years, when we've had these conversations, we've said, well, the big problem is Indiana just can't keep anybody healthy. Indiana just can't keep guys on the field. Indiana's been able to do that this year, and if you actually look at, and there are a variety of reasons for this. Line play is better. I think Indiana's committing to the run a little bit more. Indiana's dead middle of the conference in sacks allowed. They've only allowed 12. And you compare that to Iowa's allowed 17, despite obviously not throwing the ball very much at all. Purdue's allowed 17. Northwestern and Illinois have combined to allow 61, which is just like a stunning number. The point is Indiana's kept its quarterback a lot cleaner. And I think both of these guys have been part of that too. I think they've both been good at pocket awareness, moving around, getting the ball out, that kind of thing. But you just can't, when you're searching for offensive consistency, you just really can't. It's really difficult to just keep handling the quarterback position this way and expecting different results.
Absolutely. Zach, we will see you on Sunday at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall as Indiana will be hosting UIndy for their first exhibition. Before that, they take on Penn State tomorrow. But have a great rest of your weekend, and thank you so very much. Appreciate you as always.
Jim. Good talking to you. We'll see you soon.
Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Make sure you're being a subscriber and following him. Up next, the king, the man, Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.substack.com. Back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Woo!
He's a yammer.
I was trying to break for like 5 minutes.
You don't have to worry about that with me because I don't know anything.
I disagree with that, but boy, I commented on one of your pieces, and boy, people like to respond back. I mean, nothing bad. I was like, just kept getting these notices that so and so like to whatever, and I'm like, there you go. So must be rolling. It must be really. It's got its momentum. I'm thinking.
Well, it grew like crazy early on. Now it's just kind of, I add 1 or 2 subs every story. So now it's just a matter of keep grinding and hope that it keeps growing. I guess Woodson's today at 10:15.
Yeah, and I'm going to. I'm going to try to participate with on my phone with that while the show is still going on.
Well, that should be interesting.
Oh yeah. But
we go live here in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Speed Radio here on this Friday, and it's a Friday treat, baby. It should be, instead of TGIF, it should be TGIK. Thank gosh, it's Kravitz.
Thank God.
TGIK. That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
It's a jig. It's like a
It's Friday, isn't it? The week went really fast.
2 weeks ago was Friday the 13th, even.
Indeed.
Don't forget, brought to you by the Ugly Grouper down on Anna Maria Island, Florida. I saw, daggone it. He sent me a photo from down there the other day. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. They were down visiting listeners of the show. Appreciate you so much. I'll have to pull that back up. But how you like my shirt?
Hank, who's that?
It's actually Hoosier Hank. If you look at his head,
okay,
you can't see him from the front, but it's
Was that the old mascot?
No, well, it's one that is for Wild Food Group. They've got this mascot, and here's what's funny: they used to have him dressed in pants that were candy striped.
Okay.
Well, then apparently. It was like, hey, you can't do that. Indiana has. I don't want to call it a trademark, but it might be. But on candy stripe pants like that, but it's a specific width that I've also come to understand. So I think they should go back and just make the stripes a little wider would be my suggestion.
Okay.
Not that matters to you. Hey, you had a couple of pieces out this week.
I did.
That I was enjoyed perusing. The first one is the one that I actually made my comment on, where I agreed with you, where Bob was talking about Jim Irsay and breaking the owner's code or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Which, but I like that about Jim Irsay. He'll pay the fine. He's calling out the hypocrisy.
Let me stop you right there. What if they decide to take away a draft choice? How would you feel about it then?
I would be shocked if they would drop that big of a hammer for.
I wouldn't.
Well, and if that turns out to be the case, you're going to be proven to be further right. Which again, I didn't disagree with much of what you said. The only thing is, I'm like, you know what? It's hypocrisy for the NFL to portray themselves as the premier professional sports league in the free world, yet have all this covert crap with officiating when you pointed out leagues like the NBA have reports that come out.
But the owners agreed to this process. The owners said, okay, if we go to the league and we want clarity on a call, we will keep it hush hush. Now, look, if you want a 2-minute report like they have in the NBA, knock yourself out. I'm all for transparency, but the way things stand now, they don't want that information shared. And you can disagree with the rule all you want. I disagree with the rule. I would like to see more transparency. But that is, the rule is different. The rule is that these conversations have to remain private. And Jim busted the rule. So he's going to have to pay a fine or whatever they decide to do with him.
But what do you think is the worst that is going to happen?
I think the worst that could happen is they take away a draft pick.
Well, but I mean, what do you think is what they will actually do? Or is that something you're like, I don't know?
I think they'll fine him. Yeah. And it'll be money he finds in his couch
underwear drawer. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Now, Now, but is this something that possibly will lead to
No.
less transparency?
Or more transparency.
Or more transparency, less covert action.
I doubt it, because the officials are very strong. They don't want to be publicly embarrassed. Excuse my itchy nose. They don't want to be publicly embarrassed. I think there's a gambling element in this. Until they have like a last 3 minute report like they do in the NBA, I think this is going to be the way it's the way it is, and it's the way it's going to be for some time, I would imagine.
Well, you're probably absolutely right.
But he's going to get fined. At the very least, he's going to get fined. Whether he gets suspended a game or if they take away a draft pick, that would be something.
Well, that would be substantial. The other piece, where are my notes? Damn it! Oh, great piece on the Pacers. Great start by the Pacers.
Yeah,
and I talked about it earlier in the show. TJ McConnell, how he was kind of the centerpiece of the story, but that wasn't really the story,
right?
But it was the story, but it's you have to read it to understand what we're saying.
Yeah,
but you're taking a guy that was such an integral part of a pretty good team last year.
Yeah,
who's going to be pushed way down the line because they're that much better, but he's all about being a company man, so to speak. Being a pro.
Right. I don't know how his agent feels about it necessarily, but TJ has been great about it. He can't be happy. He's competitive. He's productive every time he goes in there. But look, there's only so many minutes you've got when you've got Tyrese Halliburton and the other kid, Andrew Nembhard, at the point guard. And there's just not a lot of room for TJ to play. And it was interesting hearing Rick Carlisle after the game. He just brought it up. Nobody even asked about it. He just said, this coaching life is about a bunch of bleeping tough decisions that you have to make, and this is a tough decision that he's not going to play. And I feel bad for him, but it tells you that the Pacers are a better, deeper team than they were last year.
Absolutely. And and the fans should be looking forward to it. It should be an exciting and fun season. It was last year, surprisingly so. And they're going to be, it's going to be entertaining to watch. Switching gears, Indiana basketball makes their debut on Sunday. It's an exhibition game, but it is still the first time that Indiana fans will get to see the 23-24 iteration of this basketball team. It will be the first time they have seen Mackenzie Mbako on the
Will he play
on the court.
Will he play? I'm just wondering if he's going to get suspended by the big man.
But if you're going to do it, what good does it do to do it for an exhibition game?
No, that's true. Not exhibition, but the first couple of games that count. I would bet that he gets suspended for 2 or 3 games when the season begins.
I would not be surprised. Someone asked me or texted me or messaged, and I was like, "Oh, I think that he's probably getting a very good view of the Simon Scott Assembly Hall floor from row 49 in sections A, B, C, D."
Right. He's doing some running.
But how hard is it, do you think, for coaches to do that now when these guys are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and some of them are making that kind of money?
Well, look, I think it depends on the player, but I don't think it's that difficult. Look, Mike Woodson's still making more money than Mackenzie Mbako, and I think the kid understands he screwed up. He should understand he screwed up. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. Lot worse has happened with college kids. God only knows. But yeah, I think it's more challenging than it was before when they weren't necessarily making money over the table. But no, I don't think it'll be too tough for Mike Woodson to tell him to sit his butt down for a couple of games.
Yeah, and probably needs that. You've got to feel that. I mean, I know that he probably realizes it after the fact, but you still have to feel that you've got to show the team
right
that hey, this goes for everybody, man. It doesn't matter who you are, and it's good that it happened now and not in February or March.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head who they play the first 3 games, but I can guarantee you they're not powerhouses. So yeah, just let them sit just the way Harbaugh sat, for the first 3 games that Michigan played against directional schools. And this whole thing will be forgotten in no time. What did he get? 1 misdemeanor? So,
oh yeah, it was, this
thing will blow over.
And yeah, I had no point of really talking about it that much today. It's not a big deal. It was stupid. I don't want to say it wasn't a big deal, but it could have been way worse. Just a stupid college kid. And guess what? Let's see. Do I know any of those? Yeah, you have do you have a mirror? Can I get a mirror someplace?
Exactly. Oh God. Yeah. Thank God when we were young there are no cell phones.
Oh, hey, life would be very badly different for and it would be different, and it would be different for a lot of IU basketball players, people. Let me believe you me.
Oh, I guarantee you.
Yeah. Indiana taking the court this weekend, like I mentioned. Guys like CJ Gunn, Caleb Banks, who are coming back. What have they gained in this offseason? What are they going to have to add? Trey Galloway, is he going to start putting up more shots? Xavier Johnson coming off the injury. Mackenzie Mbako, Kellel Ware, all these different talking points to look at, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Kellel can do. I'm interested to see how dominant Mbako is. Are we saying Mackenzie's last name correct? Is it Mbako?
No, it's I've always heard and pronounced it Mbako.
Mbako.
Just like a silent G.
Mbako. Okay. Just
like Django. Like Django. The D is silent.
The J?
No, the D is silent.
Oh, the D is silent. Yes, like Django. Yes.
In the movie, he spelled his name to a guy in one of the scenes and says Django. DJANGO. The D is silent. And the guy said, I know.
No,
just silly.
I think this is going to be a really it's a bit of a mystery team. I mean, we know what they got with Galloway. We know what they've got with Xavier, but I'll be curious with all these new faces. I'll be curious to see how the freshmen look as sophomores. So it's going to be an intriguing year. I think they can finish anywhere from, say, 2nd or 3rd to about 6th in the Big Ten. So
and people don't, and I know it's because of their fans, but I've really seen fans go, why is everybody picking Indiana to and I'm like, and the one response I responded to, they had kind of laid it out for themselves. And I'm like, well, you kind of answered your own question there.
Right.
I said, and it's because there are simply a lot of questions.
Absolutely.
And that's it. You've got to see it on the floor. And when we do, we will. What's up next for you, brother?
Well, I've got, excuse me, blowing my nose here. It's a little bit of a cold coming on. I've got, it's Tom. Woodson is talking here in about 7 minutes. So yep. I'm going to listen to him, see what's going on. And then I've got the Colts game on Sunday. And we'll kind of go from there.
Sounds great, brother. Appreciate you. Make sure you go to bobkravitz.substack.com. Don't miss out on the musings of an old sports writer. I like that. That's
Like
smooth,
that.
baby.
Pretty good. Pretty smooth.
That's smooth. Bob Kravitz, we thank you, sir. Have a great weekend.
All right, buddy. You too.
Thank you very much, Bob Kravitz. We've got more coming up. Mike Woodson, press conference here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right, hold on. Oh, God dang it. Wrong button. All right. Okay, I am going to RC.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to do, folks, for the rest of the show, we're going to have the Mike Woodson press conference, but you're going to, if you're on YouTube, you will be seeing me, unfortunately, for the remainder of that. But, you know, I can put on a mask or something. But yeah, I'm going to go to that and let me pull that up, but better than listening to me yammer. So we'll have Mike Woodson on press conference on here for the remainder of the show, and then we'll cut out on our normal time.
All right. Will you do the sign off that you usually do, or would?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I hope they don't come to me with a question right when I'm wanting to sign off.
It'd be good advertisement for the show. Okay.
All right. So I've got to go into here and find. That ain't it. That's it. I wish I could.
Let me know when you're ready to go live. It's time for us to.
Oops. Okay, give me a second. Oh, shit. Damn it. I got to wait for his email back on that. You. Oh, well. So are you waiting on me?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Okay. You can go anytime, bro.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. It is the 27th of October, and I had a chance to stop by Hoosier Hanks last night. I love this shirt, and they have got some absolutely incredibly funny pictures of Hoosier Hank. My favorite is my favorite sports photo of all time, which is Muhammad Ali standing over Sonny Liston, and he's saying, get up, and you catch him in this motion while he's standing over him. And then they've got Hank laid out on the ground. It's hilarious. I suggested that they do one of my second favorite sports photo, and that is AJ Moye blocking Carlos Boozer at the NCAA tournament back in the day. Getting set up for Mike Woodson press conference coming up soon, and we'll bring that to you when it happens, which is expected to be here in just a couple of minutes. There you go, Philip. Philip knows what's going down. Robert, thanks a lot for you as well for being on. Yeah, that would not be good. Not be good. So, but yeah, we're locked in, and going to make sure that I've got everything on as supposed to be. So we're ready for all of that. Tricky to do it on the phone, especially when you're here live. So there's that. But waiting for Mike Woodson to come to the podium. So I'll just keep stretching. Who all's going to the basketball game this weekend? Indiana playing University of Indy and their first exhibition. See, Bob Kravitz is already in there, and it looks like we're about to get started. As we are close to that. So I am going to turn off these.
Coach, good morning. Good morning. Hey, so over the course of the fall practice, who would you say are 3 or 4 guys who you feel have been the most consistently impressive to you?
Well, it's really hard to say because we've been all over the board a little bit, but I would probably say Gallo started out being the most consistent. McKenzie's been pretty solid. And everybody else is just trying to grow together and trying to figure it out. So, I haven't had any what I like to see really major bright spots, but I've had a lot of good spots where guys have played in spurts that, lets me know that we just got a ways to go in terms of putting things together.
I'm ready to go with your second, and then Alex.
Yeah, then the second one, I just wanted to check in on McKenzie, sort of just how you're going to handle that, and is he going to be playing the exhibitions here coming up?
He will be playing. He's been practicing, and all that's behind us. We got to move forward.
All right, Alex and Zach.
Thanks for the time. We appreciate it. Last year, heading into the exhibitions, your team was obviously you had more known quantities, more returning players. This year with all the new guys. How important are these 2 chances to kind of get out there and have some competition before the regular season tips off in terms of just evaluating where certain guys are and what you maybe have in terms of lineups and different rotations?
No, it's very important. I mean, we got together this summer. The process began, and it's been a lot of work up until this point where these guys are pretty much beat up on each other. And so I'm kind of anxious to see where we are when we tip it up on Sunday to kind of give me some indication of things that we need to do to get better and continue to grow. So I can't wait to Sunday to see where we are.
right, Zach, then Mike Niz.
Mike, I wanted to ask about Caleb Banks, obviously a guy we saw in some productive cameos last year, particularly off the bench in Big Ten play, a lot of energy. Just how have you seen him expand his game as maybe a guy that has the potential to do a lot of different things, play different positions, defend different positions? Just kind of what have you seen from him from maybe the end of the Miami game last year to this point?
Well, he's grown a little bit. He and CJ both have grown. Even Malik, but I need more. And right now, Caleb has been kind of hampered with the growing pull, so he's kind of been on the sideline the last week and a half. So we kind of gradually bringing him back slowly, because that's something that can be nagging all year, and I don't need that. So I need him healthy and ready to go. I don't know if we'll play him on Sunday, but him and CJ and Malik are used to this season, man. I mean, I'm going to need them to play at a much higher level than that they played in the past.
Mike, then Mason.
Yeah, Mike, at Big Ten Media Days, you kind of said you'd been banged up a little bit and we're kind of struggling to get, full look at everything. Have the last few weeks been more productive in terms of having everybody available? I mean, I know you just mentioned Caleb having the groin pull, but overall, have you had better luck at getting everybody on the floor?
Yeah, I mean, this week we've had a couple of scrimmages amongst ourselves, and the last scrimmage was really promising, probably the best we played against one another. I mean, both the red and the white really competed. But, again, only time is going to tell. I mean, Sunday will give us a better indication of where we are. And from that point, we just got to continue to grow.
Mason, then Tom Brew.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask about Gabe Cupps, specifically leading that second unit with Ja'Kai out and him kind of being your only freshman guarded in the backcourt. How do you kind of anticipate him being able to lead the offense? And kind of with this exhibition, what does this opportunity provide for him?
He's been solid. I mean, I can't, I didn't mention him earlier, but he's been really one of the bright spots too. He seems to do everything that we've asked him to do, and I can't help but in time he's going to continue to get better and grow once he figures out the college game. But he's done a lot of good things on the floor for us. I mean, in terms of, winning basketball plays. That's what I like to call it, because he does a lot of good things to help you win games.
Tom Brew, then Zion.
Mike, I know you don't care about preseason rankings or anything like that, but you're not an AP top 25 team, barely in the top 50 in KenPom and stuff. From the national narrative, do you think you get to see these guys every day? Do you think you're better than a top 50 team and that we'll see that improve over the course of the next several months?
Only time will tell. Again, you just said I don't care about rankings. You got to play the games. And, we'll start here soon and kind of get a feel of where we are and see what we need to continue to grow in. I mean, you're talking about 10 new faces, 6 guys that, came from different programs and that are trying to figure out me as a coach and all the things that I'm asking them to do. So only time will tell. We just gotta play the games and see where you are.
Zion, that's Seth.
Hey, Mike, along those lines, just with so much overturn of the roster, do you feel like kind of what you see in these couple of exhibition games becomes more important than it has been in recent years?
No, every game is important, guys. When I first walked in the door 2 years ago, these guys didn't know me, and you putting a system in place. Every game is important. I came back with the same, pretty much the same group last year, and you go out and you play, and you try to see if you guys have gotten better, individually as well as a team. And so every game is important. I don't care if, these 2 scrimmage games, those are important games for our ball club to grow and get better and see where you are as a team.
Seth and Ty Golden.
Mike, I'm wondering how X has kind of held up through preseason. Obviously, he spent a lot of time, rehabbing that injury and getting back to 100% over the summer. Have you seen him been able to kind of grow his game anywhere from the player he was last year?
X, everything is in place for X. I just need X to just delete more. That's all he needs to think about doing. His game will take care of itself based on the fact that he's got experience at the college level now, and he knows what I'm about. He's got the speed as a point guard. I mean, he can defend. He can score the ball. I mean, there's nothing X can't do. I just need him to lead more and make sure that guys are getting better around him and he's holding people accountable. That's what captain is supposed to do.
Captain Jim Coyle.
Mike, it's the proverbial first game you get to see a lot of players against a real opposition. Is it any more important for any of these first-year guys, whether they're transfers or freshmen, on Sunday than it is for anybody else to see what they can do against somebody else?
I think as a team, it's for everybody. CJ and Caleb and Malik didn't play a whole lot of minutes last year, so it's just as important for those guys as well as the new guys that have come in. I mean, we've done a lot since this summer getting together, and so now from a coaching standpoint, my staff and I, we want to see, if they've attained a lot of the things that we've taught them, and does it carry over into a real game. So only time will tell that we can see where we are as a ball club.
Jim Coyle, then Jack.
Hey, Mike, how are you, sir?
Good, you?
Good. Thank you very much. Early on, age was something that was used against you in regards to recruiting and being able to relate to today's player. But do you think that maybe because of your NBA experience and today's players seems more mentally inclined to think like a professional has been a big help in getting in reaching these guys as successfully as you have? And then the second part, there's also a family aspect to recruiting. How does it feel about to be a grandfather probably within days?
Well, only you guys was worrying about the age. That was never a factor when I came in the door. I've been coaching a long time, and I'm healthy enough to coach. Mentally, I'm sharp enough to coach. So I didn't have a problem coming back to Indiana. That was you guys saying that I was too old and couldn't recruit. And you have to recruit some in the pros, gentlemen, when you're going after free agency. So some of the same things I'm doing now, I had to do at the pro level. You just do it on a bigger scale in terms of, as far as the money makes it bigger. And so you got to make sure that you're doing your due diligence when you're recruiting a free agent or getting ready to make a trade, that you know what the hell you're doing, because it could bite you in the butt. So it's no different than, coming to college and having to deal with them. You're dealing with parents in the pros. You're dealing with their handlers in the pros, their agents. The same shit that you're going through now, that I'm going through now, I did in the NBA. But you guys wouldn't know that because you weren't there. So I felt good about my position coming in. My thing was just being able to sit at the table with the best players that are out there. That's how I was. That's the only thing I was thinking about when I came in. How can I get to the best players? And and my coaching staff, they gave me their opinions about it early on, and saying, "Hey, you got to wait your turn." Well, I didn't feel as though I had to wait my turn. Just get us to the table and let's see what happens. And that's, we've had some pretty good success being able to recruit and talk to some of the top players. We haven't gotten them all, and you're not. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But hell, if you never get an opportunity to talk to the best players, it's not going to work as far as I'm concerned. And as far as being a granddaddy, I'm happy as hell. That's 2 weeks away, and I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks,
All right, Jack, last one.
Hey, Mike, a couple weeks ago in Minneapolis, you mentioned that Khalil Ware and Anthony Walker had been dealing with some minor injuries. I guess, how are they doing, and do you expect to have them Sunday for the exhibition?
No, everybody is healthy except right now Caleb Banks and Jakaya. You know, those two guys won't play on Sunday. I mean, Banks could play if I wanted to play him, but I'm just, you know, this growing thing, I've dealt with players that have had growing pulls, and, you know, those and calf pulls, things like that is nagging. And if you don't watch it closely and rehab right, you know, it could be a problem all season. And I'm going to need Caleb Banks. So we might not play him on Sunday for sure.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
There's Coach Mike Woodson, and perfect timing. How about that? Man, how about that? Perfect timing. What a way to end today's show and the week. Great questions, great answers from Coach. You can catch that if you in its entirety, of course, at on our YouTube channel if you missed any of it, which is at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. So yes, I know I snuck that one in. No one. I don't think anyone's asking about that. I was hoping to get that grandfather question in, but yeah. But I can't thank everybody enough today. Bob Kravitz, of course, Zach Osterman, RC for filling in. Most importantly, and thank my man Hank here. But most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, of course, we have no reason to be here. Might try to do some kind of a show Sunday after the basketball game. I haven't really thought that far ahead. If it's something that the people want, we'll do. But I hope that we're able to get through Saturday, and then we'll get to Sunday. The game's at 1 at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Thanks for being around, guys. Until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.